Hey 7th grade, welcome back. So we're going to get started on this project. The materials we're going to need is an object, a pencil, a ruler, markers, or colored Sharpies. So for this project, we're going to extend from last week. So I'm not going to use these scissors to cut. I am going to use these scissors for my project. So just like we did positive and negative space last week, we're going to work with positive and negative space this week, but we're going to do an overlapping project. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trace them over about 4 times. And since I have a pretty large object, I'm going to do it about 4 times. If you have a smaller object, you may want to do it more times so that your objects are overlapping each other. After I finish my first tracing, I'm going to place my scissors again down and just trace it a second time. Somewhere interesting, I'm also going to trace it a third time. Maybe I'd like to trace it where it's half off the page, half on the page. So if we look at my paper, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tracings of my scissors. Next, I want to measure the side of my paper. This one is 12 inches. I'm going to tally each side in 2-inch increments. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. This bottom of my paper is 9 inches, so I'm going to tally the 4.5 inch mark. And then half of that is 2 inches and a fourth. I'm going to do the same thing on the top. Once I have all my tally marks, I want to line up my ruler and draw some straight lines going across my paper until I have all of my lines drawn. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So right now my paper is divided into 4 sections, into 4 rows by 6 columns, but I want to add some extra lines that don't go all the way through to the other side. They're just to add some interesting detailing and make my project more dynamic. So I just have some extra lines that make it more interesting instead of just a basic rows and columns. After I have a good composition and I'm happy with my line work, I'm going to go in with a Sharpie and start to Sharpie everything, all the lines and my 4 tracings of my scissors. After I'm done with my tracing, I'm taking an eraser. This one's a kneadable one, and I'm erasing all my pencil lines before I start to color. When I color, I can either choose to use Sharpies or markers. I'm going to use Sharpies for this project. You can pick any range of colors. You want some colors that make each other stand out. I'm doing this kind of theme with some pinks, oranges, blues, and greens. And when you start to color each section, because I'm using a Sharpie, I want to make sure I'm outlining my section using my black lines as a border. And then I can even take a piece of paper and place it underneath so I don't ruin the table. When you color, you want to make sure that each section is different, that you're not coloring the same colors on each section. So if I did pink there, then I'm not going to put a pink square underneath. You want to make sure you block out the colors very well. As you're coloring, you can add black sections to drive the point home of your positive and negative space. You can also add a thin Sharpie to some of your sections to make the difference between your light sections and dark sections also have some interesting patterns. I'm only placing white sections and lined sections in my actual scissors, and my dark sections, my black ones, go in the background. So I will never have black in my scissors, and I will never have white in the background. This kind of sets the balance and tone for your project. So it's just about repetitive colors, placing them in an interesting pattern, and coloring in your scissors using both colored Sharpies and balances of white and lined sections. So there you have it, 7th grade, a project using positive and negative space. Make sure to spread out your white sections and your line sections so that your composition has balance. I hope you had fun during this project, and happy creating.